Hi, everybody, and welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Greta, and I'm the dietitian at John Stoddard Cancer Center. So today I have another great recipe for you. This is another wonderful cauliflower recipe, and I actually got it from the American Institute for Cancer Research's website. They have lots of great recipes. Their website's just aicr.org. They have a whole recipe library, so I thought we would try one of them. So this one's kind of similar to our cauliflower shawarma that we had, but this is in the form of a grain bowl instead of a sandwich. So grain bowls are great because you can build them from whatever you have, and there's just some basic components that you sort of put together. So there's actually a roasted vegetable component to it. There's also some type of green in most grain bowls. You can do whatever kind of green that you like. I have sort of a mixed greens. It also has some kind of a fresh component. So we'll have some tomatoes and avocado, some kind of a dressing. We're going to make another tahini-based dressing. And it also has different plant proteins in it. So there are walnuts and there's beans. So lots of great pieces that we're going to put together. And then, of course, there's a grain. So you can use any kind of grain that you like. The recipe calls for quinoa, but if you'd rather use a whole grain rice or farro or bulgur, you can use any kind of grain you have. So we're going to get started. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to tilt my camera down so you can see my cutting board. I'm going to start with my lemons. So there is 4 tablespoons of lemon juice in this whole recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze my lemons right away. I've got 2 nice sized lemons here. So this recipe calls for 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. I usually expect each half of a lemon to give me about a tablespoon. So I am using 2 whole lemons here. The other nice thing about these types of recipes is that you can make all the pieces and then you can store them in your refrigerator and sort of build your grain bowl at a later time. You can also build them ahead of time for packed lunches. They make a really great fast dinner that you can throw them together. Also helps give you a workout, squeezing your lemons. My oven is already preheated to 400 to do our roasted vegetable piece of this. And I do encourage you at any point in any of these recipes, if there are any ingredients that you'd like to substitute, please feel free to substitute ingredients. I do it all the time just to use what I have on hand. All right, so let's get rid of our lemon halves. All right, so my big bowl right here, bring it over so you can see it. So we're going to make sort of a flavoring, like a marinade for our roasted vegetables. And I like to mix it all together in one bowl and then put my cut veggies in it and then spread it onto my sheet tray. So we're going to use some of that lemon juice right away. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 tablespoons of that nice fresh lemon juice in my bowl. Perfect. We're also going to add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. So this helps flavor. It also helps keeping your veggies from sticking to your tray. So that's 1 and 2. Set that aside because we're going to come back to that measuring spoon later. All right, so now for some of the fun things. My little bag, you know this little bag, this is my turmeric bag. So all kinds of benefits of eating turmeric. Anti-inflammatory for sure. It's also been shown to reduce risk for cardiovascular disease and increase insulin sensitivity, all kinds of great benefits. So we're going to put 1 teaspoon of turmeric. It's also a beautiful color and it makes everything that beautiful orange color. Now, different from our shawarma, we are going to use curry powder instead of cumin. Now, you could use cumin if you want to. Cumin is used in another part of our recipe here. It is going to be in the dressing. So 2 teaspoons of curry powder. So if you are not crazy about the flavor of curry powder, you certainly could substitute your cumin right now instead, and that would be totally fine. All right. And of course, I like to add some fresh cracked black pepper. Definitely adds lots of great flavor. Perfect. And then I do like to add about a half a teaspoon of salt because we do want to make sure that our flavor or layers are all flavored. I don't have my measuring spoon. I just set it aside and I can't find it. So about a half a teaspoon. I know what it looks like. All right. So we're just going to kind of mix that all together. Grab a spoon. And it makes this beautiful orange color, and it's so fragrant because of that turmeric and curry powder. Beautiful orange color. Everything is going to be that color, which is amazing. All right, I'm going to set my big bowl aside. And of course, there I find my measuring spoon. We'll set that aside. We'll need that later. All right, so now to work on our veggies. So the first thing that's going to go in, so this is 1 can of garbanzo beans. So you could use other beans. These are nice. They hold up well roasting. I have rinsed them, drained them. I've let them all drain out so that they're pretty dry. So I'm going to go ahead and add those in. So low sodium or no sodium canned beans are a great thing to keep in your cupboard to add into recipes, to add some plant proteins. They're also, if you look at the ingredients on low sodium canned beans, it's really just beans, maybe some water. That's about it. So they are very minimally processed. They also save you a lot of time in the kitchen because if you know, beans can take a bit of time to prep and cook. So it's a nice thing to have on hand to make recipe preparation easier. It's one of my favorite canned things to have on hand. A lot of canned products now too are making their cans BPA-free lining, especially all the organic brands are doing that now. So if you're concerned about that, certainly you can look at the organic brands and they have BPA-free lining, or a lot of even regular brands are switching to that now. So I'm just going to slice, and I'm going to cheat my camera down so you can see my cutting board. I'm just going to slice my onion just like we did when we made the shawarma into kind of slices, just like that. Throwing them in my big bowl. Now my onion was quite large, so I don't know that I'm going to need it all. As I've told you before, I'm a big fan of roasted onion, so I tend to add quite a bit. Like I said, my onion he was kind of a big guy, but I'm going to add them all because I don't like to waste. Now this recipe does call for cauliflower. If you're not a fan, you could substitute broccoli for sure. That would be great in this. All right, my onion is in. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is sweet potato. So the recipe calls for you to peel the sweet potato. I don't. I leave it on. It is totally up to you texture-wise. If you don't like it, you certainly can peel it. I just trim the tough edges off. Then I slice it down the long way that way, and one more time this way, so I have nice flat pieces that are easy to cut. And then we're just going to kind of cube this. So these veggies are going to roast for about 30 minutes. We want everything to roast at about the same time. So sweet potatoes obviously take a little bit more time, so we want to cut them a little bit smaller than we're going to cut up our cauliflower and our onions. So we're just cubing this up. Just like that. I always like to save myself work too. That's part of why I don't trim off peel my sweet potato, but you absolutely can. All right, that is in. So the next thing is our cauliflower. So I have a whole head of cauliflower here, and I've totally washed it. And we're going to trim this very similar to the way that we did with the shawarma. We're just cutting it into like bite-sized pieces, remembering it's going into a grain bowl. And that's about the size that we want. So I am just going to keep working on my cauliflower, and I will come right back. Okay, so my cauliflower and all my veggies are all cut up in my big bowl. So now I'm just taking kind of a big spoon or some tongs, and I'm getting all of that wonderful seasonings and lemon juice and olive oil all sort of evenly coated all over your cauliflower. I think this way is just easier than doing it directly on the sheet tray, and then you know that everything got really evenly coated, and then it all starts turning that beautiful orange color. So I'm just going to spread this out in a nice even layer on my sheet tray and throw it into my 400-degree oven. We're going to roast this for about 30 minutes, and I'll come back and show you our next step. Okay, so I came over to my stove now, and I'm going to make my quinoa. So in my pot right here, I've just measured out my quinoa and added my stock. Now, you can use the veggie stock like it calls for. You can also use chicken stock if you have that available, whatever your preference is. I have provided you the recipes for both, so you can always make your own. I keep some in my freezer all the time, so I always have stock available. So you can follow the package direction for yours. I usually bring mine up to a simmer and then cover it and let it simmer on low. Turn the temperature down, let it simmer on low for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then fluff it up and remove any excess liquid when it's done. Or you can follow the recipe. I'm going to go ahead and get this started, and we'll come back when this is done. Okay, so while my quinoa is simmering and my veggies are still working in the oven, I'm going to make the sauce or the dressing that we're going to put on top of this. So it is a tahini base. So this is the tahini that we had for our shawarmas as well. Remember, you have to stir your tahini kind of like a natural peanut butter. It's a nice creamy texture. It is a sesame paste. So it's a little thinner than peanut butter usually. So we're just going to add a 1/4 cup of our tahini. My favorite measuring cup. Makes it so easy to measure things like peanut butter and tahini and yogurt. All right, so we're going to throw that in our bowl, just like that. Grab my knife out of here. I can scrape off the rest. Perfect. All right, so we're also going to add a 1/4 cup of yogurt. Okay, so I am using just Fage fat-free yogurt, unflavored. This adds a nice creaminess to this. Nice little tang. Okay, put my yogurt in. Okay. Next, we're going to add our 2 tablespoons of lemon juice that we've been reserving. All right. Bring my bowl over here so you can see it. Just like that. All right. So then we're going to add 3 tablespoons of cold water. So I just have some cold water sitting here. Remember, our tahini likes to seize up a little bit. Once we add everything to it and add the lemon juice to it, so that helps thin it down a little. We're also going to come back to our turmeric. And we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of turmeric. And then our cumin comes back into play here. We're just going to add 1/2 teaspoon of our cumin. So it's got lots of really nice earthy flavors in this recipe. And then, of course, a little black pepper. Perfect. About a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, just to make sure that we're flavoring this a little, like that. All right, and then our garlic. So for a recipe like this, that the garlic is going to be in the dressing and we're going to be eating it raw. We want it really finely either minced, or this is a time to get out your microplane and grate it on your microplane or on the side of your grater. This is one of those occasions that I get out my garlic press because, as you know, and I've said it before, I hate mincing garlic. It's like my least favorite thing to do. So I'm just putting it through my press. And we're just doing 2 cloves of garlic. I had 1 giant clove, and then I had 1 smaller clove. So let's see if that giant one will even fit in here. You certainly don't have to use a garlic press. Like I said, your grater works fine. Microplane works great. And then what I do is I take all the bits that are left in my garlic press and I actually just chop those up real fine and throw them in. Because there's nothing wrong with them. And now that they're really crushed down, they're easy to kind of finely mince up. But nobody wants to get a really big, harsh bite of raw garlic in their dressing. So it's nice to have it kind of all minced up. So that's all minced, just like that. All right, I'm gonna grab a spoon out. We'll give her a stir. You can use a little whisk too if you have it, just to get all of that yogurt broken down. And as you stir, it'll kind of like be thin and then it sort of thickens up a little bit. It's that magic of tahini mixed with lemon juice. It just does this crazy texture thing. So what you can do is once you're mixing it, if it seizes up too much on you, you can always just add a little bit of cold water to it because we do want this slightly thicker dressing, but not too thin. So you can see how mine is sort of thickening up. It's that beautiful color from adding our turmeric in there. All right, that looks great. Okay, so we're going to come back when our veggies are out and we'll show you the next steps. All right, so we are going to add about a cup of walnut halves to this. You could use other nuts. Pecans would be great. You could use almonds too. But we're going to add a little bit of extra flavor to them, and then we're going to toast them in the oven. So I have my cup of walnuts in this heat-proof baking dish. It's just in a little Pyrex baking dish. I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of the curry powder on here, and then a teaspoon of lemon juice, and a teaspoon of my olive oil, just like that, and just toss it around a little bit. So these are going to go into that 400-degree oven for about 10 minutes until they're nice and golden and toasty. And when they're done, we'll work on our fresh components of this and be ready to put our green bowl together. Hi everybody, and I'm back and all the pieces are put together and I'm ready to make my green bowl. So I am starting my green bowl with some beautiful mixed greens here. You can use any kind of greens you want. The recipe called for kale, which would be great. You can use arugula, which is very plentiful in the springtime. I just have some kind of mixed greens, assorted greens, which are great. So all the parts, let's start with, we're going to add to our green bowl. I'm going to add some of that beautiful cooked quinoa. Okay, so that goes on one side of it. I've got over here some fresh tomatoes that I just half. These are just little baby kind of cherry tomatoes. I'm going to put a few of those in. I've also got right here some sliced avocado. So I'm going to add about a quarter of my nice sliced avocado. And put that kind of in the side here. Okay, getting better. All right, so now all of these beautiful roasted veggies. I'm going to fit in another corner here. I don't know if I got a big enough bowl. All right. All right. Roasted veggies like that. Then I have some of these beautiful toasted pecan halves that just came out of the oven, which smell so good. Kind of top those there. And then don't forget about our beautiful yogurt and tahini dressing, which I'm just going to kind of drizzle a few dollops over the top of everything. And no wonder it's called a glow bowl. Look how sunny and bright that bowl is. It's beautiful. So thank you again for joining me in my kitchen, and enjoy.